Oh, it's pressure. All righty. So we are live. Okay.
There we go.
So welcome to Cincy Stripe Stream number 14 here on Way of the Dad podcast for the time being. Coming to you on my end from partially converted Toolshed Studios. And I have a guest tonight. Someone I've been talking to on Twitter for a little while now. Twitter being the fire hose of the internet that it is, easy to drink from, as long as you want all of it. And Tyler, go ahead and introduce yourself. And who are you? Where are you? And all of those things.
Well, first off, what's going on, guys? My name's Tyler Meyerning. Most people probably know me from my nonsense on TikTok with the Bengals fan counseling videos. But yeah, you can find my other social medias outside of Twitter, which is Tyler Meyerning. But I also have TikTok, YouTube, which is Ivomania 411. I also host a Sunday morning podcast called The Morning Prowl with Bengals Whitney and Bridget. So fairly new show. But yeah, I got my hands in a couple different pots, but just anything Bengals content, just that I could get my hands on. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
All righty. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've known you, or however we want to call that, in the way that you know someone on the internet. But I've been, when I got on Twitter, I kind of found that Bengals Facebook is fine,
It's interesting.
but I wanted to kind of expand, and yeah, it's interesting all by itself, and that's about all I'm gonna say about that. Um, but Bengals Twitter's different. You and I were talking before the show, and you're right, it is very different. It has a different feel, different.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, the way it approaches is different. It's the whole setup is
Mhm.
very different.
It
Um,
it feels more like it feels more like a giant family, and it's from the people that I've got the chance to
yeah,
meet, just through Bengals Twitter has been absolutely amazing.
I've been surprised that there is far less trolling than I suspected. Since this is the first time I've ever been on Twitter,
Mhm.
I expected trolling to the 12th degree, and I haven't seen that. I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist; they do, but it's been overall a pretty positive experience, and I thought it was a good way to maybe try to get the channel into another arena, because it's almost like when you're in Facebook, you're kind of stuck in these little bubbles, and you
Mhm.
can't get out of that bubble unless somebody shares you outside of that bubble.
Right.
Whereas with Twitter, it's like walking into a gigantic convention center full of people and just shouting. It's
That's
it's
a pretty good way of
very
putting
different
it.
approach. So, um, now that I've had a good analogy for the night, we can go ahead and end the show and go home now. Um, so I don't know, what are you drinking tonight?
So I got the slide my camera over there. I got the Ryan Guys Cheetah, which is obviously decked out in Bengals stripes. So felt very appropriate
Yeah,
for the show tonight.
you were very on brand tonight. I was not, because I did not have time to go find something more on brand. But I do have the good old standby Hornitos Cristalino tequila. I actually like this one. I've had it on before. I don't know, like it's a guest or something. Um,
Welcome back to the
but
show.
I like it because it yeah, it's the reposado or the anejo that's been filtered again,
Okay.
and I don't know, it's clear, so you know I like it. It tastes good, so we'll pour that for tonight. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so now that we got that out of the way, obviously, for people who have watched Cincy Stripe stream before, it looks a little different right now because you see that little logo in the upper right hand corner. We're using StreamYard tonight. It's far easier to do multiple people on StreamYard than it is on OBS. It's not impossible. It's just easier. So uh, I don't know if I'm going to use consistently, but it's something I wanted to try out and see how it went. And you know, I kind of felt like it was good to maybe have you on and see how this goes. I've never done this before, but I've been kind of wanting to have a more conversational style as opposed to me just talking to a camera and eventually somebody listens. Um, and so, you've done kind of multi streams before. It sounds like.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I've obviously had my own show, and then I've been on various podcasts this season so far. So
Okay.
little bit of experience here and there.
Sure. All right. Well, so we'll try to kind of keep things sort of the way I normally do them, but if anybody watched Monday Night Football, we all know there's nothing normal about what happened on Monday. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess it's I'll say why kind of like a brief maybe intro, and then we can get into it. But I
Mhm.
felt like before uh, Damar Hamlin went down, it was a game that looked like it was going to live up to all of the hype.
Oh yeah.
I that's
It,
it felt like it, man. It felt like, "Oh, boy, this is just gonna be 2 heavyweights just trading punches all night long." Um, the first drive was very promising, and then,
mhm.
of course, the Bills kinda did what they wanted until the defense tightened up like they usually do in the red zone, and then things changed.
Yeah.
And, you and I, kinda privately talked earlier this week. If you don't mind, I don't know how much you and I were both in a funny place earlier this week on
Mhm.
basically Tuesday morning after. Did I was a little shocked how much it affected me. Not that I'm shocked that I can't feel empathy for someone who's going through
Mhm.
something terrible, but I was a little thrown off that it still affected me on Tuesday. Like, it wasn't just, "That's really sad, I hope he comes through."
Right. Like it.
It's
I mean,
I mean,
like
I was
leaving
shook.
this.
How about you?
Oops, sorry. Yeah, like
What's that?
leaving the stadium, you know, or even just at the stadium, I was just like I was numb. Like I wasn't sure like how to process everything, and like going back to the car, it was just like a silent walk, and I'm trying to figure, just get my head around like what just happened. And then like Tuesday morning happened, and I'm on an emotional roller coaster. I'm like fighting back tears at one point. This is my first day back
Yeah.
to work. I had Christmas shutdown, so this is my first day back to work. I'm like fighting back tears one moment. I'm angry the next because I see stupid comments. People blaming T Higgins, which is about
Yeah.
I'm about like ready to put my fist through a drywall or something like that. And then it's you go you I went through every single emotion that I think there is out there like on Tuesday morning, and I by the
Yeah.
time I went to bed Tuesday night I was drained. I'm still drained tonight. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's obviously not been a normal week, but obviously we got some very positive news tonight, and again
Yes.
more emotions. I was fighting tears back again today at work, and man, I'm just I'm ready to get back to somewhat normal. Obviously, we're still waiting more positive news from Damar, but we've obviously made some great strides here the last couple of days. But yeah, just
Absolutely.
a emotionally exhausting week to say the
Yeah.
least.
I'm right there with you. Tuesday was, I mean, I can even say that, some of it maybe is the leftovers of the holiday season and the go, go, go,
Mhm.
and go here, go here, be there. And some of that's probably a factor. I don't, I don't, I won't discount that, but I noticed that like Tuesday was I was constantly looking to see what's going on, what's the news, what's the updates. I was checking my phone more than and I'm on my phone off and on throughout the day, but I mean I was checking it a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. You were in the stadium. I was not. I
Mhm.
was at my buddy's house where me and a buddy of mine, Dave, we typically watch. It's just like that tradition thing that we just do. We just get together and watch games. Is it my house or is it your house? Who cares? You know? And I remember, of course, the broadcast is a little different, obviously, than being there. Being there, you don't
Mhm.
always get a lot of feedback about what's going on, and sometimes um, you're just trying to see something to see what's up. It's not like they
Right.
announce a lot over the PA system. Um, so when the play happened, of course, T. Higgins catches the ball, turns up north, and he's lowering down because he's gonna get tackled. He knows it. He's gonna see
Breaks in
if he
front of
can
him.
maybe he's gonna try to get a couple extra yards. He's doing that thing where he tries to get low because
Mhm.
low man wins. It doesn't matter whether you're in
Yeah.
wrestling or um, in martial arts, we would do this competition called sumo, which just you lock up and you just try to get somebody outside the ring. And it was just learning how to create advantage and stuff. So low man wins.
Right.
And um and then when I saw the hit, I was like, oh, that's a heck of a tackle, you know? And then you saw everybody looks like they were getting up, and then of course the camera cuts away because
Mhm.
it wants to show like 12 other, camera shots before the offense gets back up and ready to line up for the next play. Well, then the camera goes almost like maybe a second and a half, 2 seconds tops, and it goes right back. And I saw, you see someone on the ground, and I kind of thought it was funny there for just a second. I was like, wait a minute, that was the exact same camera angle we just came away from, and nobody was on the ground. So what happened? And then they,
Interesting.
oh, we've got an injury. We'll take an injury timeout here. It goes to commercials. Then it comes back, and that was like my first sense that something very, very, very different was going on, because what it showed you was um, various Bills players, and they all looked distraught,
Mhm.
crying, um, wide eyes, like they saw something terrible, and and I'm like, uh, okay, this isn't good. This doesn't look right. And then they showed the replay, and you saw him get right back up from the tackle, Hamlin,
Mhm.
and then he just wavered. And of course, I'm sure most people have seen the video by now. I don't think it needs to get shared around a super whole bunch unless you just need to see it to understand it. But once you've seen it once, unless you're kind of weird, you probably don't want to see it again, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he just falls down, like just drops. And when I saw that, I was like, oh no, that's bad. And I'm trying to remember now because I think they cut to commercial again. And then when they came back, that's when the ambulance was on the field. And I don't know about you. I have never seen an ambulance on the field, and I've been hardcore watching football, Bengals and otherwise, for geez, at least since the '03 season. Marvin Lewis is the one that really got me to really pay attention to the Bengals. Other than that, before then, it was always just, how are they doing? Oop, not very good. Okay. Just the same as the last 10 years. Okay. Just let me know when they do good. And, I mean, I was a Bengals fan, but there wasn't much to root for.
Yeah.
Especially after the first couple games of the season, you're like, yep, they still suck. And I've never seen an ambulance on the field. And uh, I can't remember when I was talking to my buddy about it, Dave. I was like, that's not good. He goes, oh, yeah, it's not good. I said, no, it's not good because the only reason I can think you back up an ambulance right up to where the player is at is because you need something that's in that ambulance.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't, if it was just, an ACL or concussion, they're just going to strap you to a board, put you on the cart. run you off, and then
Get you out
put
of
you in
there.
the ambulance that's there offside, in the garage, and off to, UC or wherever it is you go. Usually it's UC.
Mhm.
Um, that was when I saw the ambulance. That's when my heart fully sunk because, of course, they were cutting us to commercial a lot on the TV side of things, and then it became obvious why. Especially when Troy Aikman and Joe Buck come back on, and he mentions CPR, and you don't do that to somebody who has a heartbeat or a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, um, yeah. I I never need to see that again. I hope I never do. I mean, and it feels like the flukiest type of thing because I saw the play a couple more times and I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, where's the the strangeness of the hit?
Hmm.
And it's T. Higgins. He lowers his shoulder because he's going to take a hit, and he's trying to fight. Maybe get a couple extra yards out of it. There was nothing weird about that hit. Hamlin and Higgins didn't even go down weird. They just went down like you see, like 50 times
Just a
per
normal
game.
tackle.
Yeah. And, some people are talking about maybe hit him just right in the chest, which is a medical possibility. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. And I know some people want to speculate about this, out of the other. I don't, I'm not, frankly, not going to get into that. Um, there's a lot of theories on Twitter. Um, and Twitter being the amazing and terrible thing it can be all at the same time has come through plenty this week. Um, but yeah, how did you in the like when you were there in the thing? How when did you realize, oh, something really really bad is going here? This isn't a standard injury.
So, like, I've tried to, not that I want to like relive the moment or anything like that, but what I've done a lot this week is just like replayed the moment in my head post, like after he's down.
Hmm.
I've like tried to put the timeline back together because there, in my timeline, I don't think I even have this timeline fully figured out yet because there's some moments where it like zips by, and then there's some moments where it's taking like an eternity. So I, when the play was happening, I just happened to be recording it with my phone.
Yeah.
So like when I record, I do stuff on TikTok. I do like game day vlogs and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I try to catch pieces of action here and there. I happen to be recording this play. So, I'm watching the game. I got my phone down to my chest like I normally do, and I just, so I don't like to watch through my phone. I think that's lame. You ruin your experience. So I keep it down here against my chest. When you
Yeah.
turn your body, you keep the camera angle with it. So just that perspective. So I recorded that play. You know, I hit stop. I was getting ready for the next play, getting ready to record that. And then, he's not getting up. I'm like, okay, it's an injury. I can kind of just like sit back here and relax a little bit. And I don't know how long it took, but then I see Joe Mixon frantically trying to get someone's attention on the Bengals sideline. I'm like, what? Who's he? What's he trying to do? Like, okay, do they need more medical staff? Like, okay, that's typical. Like, it's a serious
Hmm.
injury. More medical staff. That's fine. Then I see guys, grabbing the stretcher, and I'm like, okay, was this? Hopefully, this is just over precautious. Maybe it's a serious neck injury. Like, they're gonna be
Yeah.
over cautious with it. They're gonna take time. Um, and then what else happened after that? I can't remember what happened next. Whether it was them pulling out the AED or if it was the ambulance coming onto the field, but I think it was I think it was probably the ambulance came out next, and then there's this uh, the crowd is just dead quiet at this point, and this alarm goes off. It's already eerie enough that it's quiet, but then this just loud alarm goes off, And I'm pretty sure I've heard this once before, but I can't remember. I can't recollect when exactly it was. But it is the scariest alarm you'll ever hear. And as you hear that alarm, you see players. They're already circled around Damar, but then you see him back up, and we're everybody in the stadium's like looking at replays. Screen just went white.
There's your light.
Looking at
Yeah.
looking at replays on Twitter, like we're getting little bits of information that for the longest time I thought it was a neck injury because I saw something on Twitter or something along the lines of they're trying to stabilize his neck or something like that. It's like
Hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
we have another Ryan Shazier moment, which was the last time that I
Yeah.
recall seeing an ambulance on the field. And I was like, okay, this super cautious, you know, it's a neck
There was an
injury.
ambulance on
And
the
then,
field for Shazier?
mhm.
Wow, I forgot that. I'm sorry. So then I have seen an ambulance on the field. I apologize. I
All good.
totally that's the funky thing about memory is that it starts playing with you after a while. So go ahead,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
But yeah, like I said, you hear that alarm and like that, it was just eerie at that point. And then all of a sudden, you're like I said, we're still checking Twitter, and that's when we see CPR is being administered, and now you're getting real information. It's like, what did we just witness here?
Yeah.
And yeah, like that's the shittiest thing is sitting there and feeling so useless at the moment. All you can do is just stand there and
Yeah.
watch. Like
Yeah.
I have no medical abilities in my body. I not trained abilities at least, but
Yeah.
like all you can do is just sit there and just like pray and like you're just frozen. Like I said, no, I'm just numb at the time and just trying to process. But
Yeah, it's
yeah, crazy.
I'm going to bet that that alarm you heard was the AED when it did not detect a heartbeat and it was going to shock
Okay.
because they are so background I do have medical background. I'm a physical therapy assistant. So I have to do CPR class every 2 years and um keep that amongst a few other certifications up to date all the time. And
Mhm.
that's one of them. And the AED will typically um it'll let the CPR person do their thing and then it'll direct you as to whether it needs you to back up, and it usually will give a good loud alarm to remind everybody to back up, don't touch, it's about to
Mhm.
administer a shock. And I'll tell you right now, that piece of equipment is very, very, very likely why he is still with us today. Um,
Mhm.
when they figured out how to make, when they designed that equipment, of course they get better and better, but uh, it is a huge, huge difference. Everybody, we watch movies and we think CPR, oh, they just bring them back, just a few good hard pounds on the chest and they bring them back. And I'm sorry, CPR is something you don't want to be present for. I have not been. I'm going to knock on wood.
Mhm.
Um, but it is not something you want to be present for. It's violent and it makes sounds that you don't want to hear. I'm just going to say that. Um, but the AEDs are really fantastic piece of technology that can go along with CPR, and it brings up the potential for saving someone much, much higher than CPR alone. Um, obviously CPR alone is better than nothing, but when you can have an AED, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it definitely brings the possibilities up. So I imagine that is probably um, what you heard. That's my guess. I'm
Mhm.
not 100%. I wasn't there. Of course, we didn't hear any of that on the TV side,
Yeah.
but we're just sitting there and it's just like disbelief, just
Yeah.
watching in disbelief. Like, no, 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 no. What's this? Can't be real.
Right.
This is supposed to be a football game. This can't be real. And then as you see more, because we're getting just little glimpses and then back to commercial, little glimpse back to commercial. And then as they finally stopped cutting to commercials so quickly and started giving us more information, because I think in the booth they didn't have any information, so it's best just to cut back to commercial. Tell
Mhm.
us what they know really, really fast and get out. You know, Eventually they stopped doing that and they started relaying information and the severity of it. Um, and uh, Me and my friend, we were just watching it. It was like, oh my god, you know. And they take him out of the stadium, and of course I'm checking Twitter. I'm checking all the Bengals Facebook I can find just to see what
Mhm.
anybody's saying. And my brother-in-law was actually in the stadium, so we were hearing a little bit from him. Of course, like you, he's getting a very different feel of it than we were. We may be
Yeah.
getting more information, but it was really hard to get that information until finally they stopped cutting the commercial and started. They had information to relay. Buck and Aikman did, and and then I saw some of the best stuff I've ever seen, um, from a leadership perspective and from a doing the right thing
Yeah.
perspective. Um, and if you're on Twitter, there's at least one seriously large idiot on Twitter. It's some guy who's a Bills fan on Twitter, and that does not reflect anywhere near 99.9% of Bills fans on Twitter. They have all
Mhm.
been phenomenal, almost to a T, except for this one. And I've said it before. I don't care how nice your punch bowl is. There's always a turd in there somewhere. You look for it and you'll
Yep.
find it. Make no mistake.
Yep.
There's one at
E-
least.
Every fan base has it.
And well, I mean, in any, you can go to any group, no matter how
Yeah. Yeah.
good a set of people are, you always find one at least. There's
Mhm.
always at least one. Sometimes there's a lot, but um, and you know, we saw on TV, we saw very, very briefly Joe throwing a couple passes. Looks like he's barely mail. I mean, he's just like, I guess this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then you Diggs, and he's trying to like get guys riled up. And that's when we heard that uh I think it was I think it was Buck, because he's the Aikman's the color guy, Buck's the play by play. Um
Yeah.
and they were talking about how um yeah, the we're hearing that the refs are going to give them about 5 minutes to get warm back up and continue play. And I immediately looked at my buddy. I was like, "Are they for real? This isn't gonna. There's no way." You can see the Bills' sideline. They are not looking, and it was almost. It's not comical. There was nothing comical about it, but there was this weird. Comical's not the word. Irony that as Buck is saying, relaying the information they were told, which is probably just going by standard practice for a
Yeah.
regular injury, is the impression I would imagine. Okay, you guys got 5 minutes, warm up, and then we'll get back on the field. They cut to a shot of uh, Josh Allen. He's sitting on the bench, staring off into the dirt like it's a mile and a half
Motionless.
away. And I remember seeing that, and I looked at my friend. I was like, "Nope, this game is done.
There's no way.
There's no way." Nobody on the Bills sideline. I said, "What are they gonna do? They're gonna make the Bills go back out there and play a game they are not even close to, and they're gonna make them play against the Bengals, who also probably aren't really mentally into it right now, but also now have to make sure they don't, like, beat up the other team too bad, like, don't hurt them.
Right.
Like, there's no way this is not going to work." And that's when you saw Zach Taylor crossing the field. That's when the camera shot to him. And I saw that and I was like, "Oh, okay. What's happening?" Then you could see him and McDermott talking to the head ref, and that's when, like, almost within, like, 2 minutes of that, they announced, "Yep, teams are going to their locker rooms. Uh, Game is temporarily suspended, for now. We'll update you."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Good."
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any amount of time in them locker rooms gonna fix anything, but they definitely shouldn't be on the
absolutely
field
not.
right now.
I will say this because I
I
know there's a
yeah,
lot of people that are upset about the 5 minute thing. Um, that's a lot to process in an instant. Like, looking back, it's easy to say, "Oh yeah, easy. You just you postpone the game. That's the smart thing to do." But at the time, everybody's just like, what just happened? And then, even Zach Taylor is like, it wasn't until I went back to my sideline and I saw Tyler Boyd that, I kind of, processed where our players' minds were at. So,
yeah.
and then like protocol wise, and you touched on this a little bit before, this is something that, the NFL hasn't experienced since, what was it, 1971, with the Lions. They had a
My
player
understanding.
pass away on the field. Like, this is
Yeah,
this is pretty rare territory. So there's not like a set protocol on what to do. And even if they wanted to call the game, there's so many channels you got to go through for that. So like,
yeah,
I'm not upset about the 5 minute thing. It was just, it was in the moment and everybody was doing what they thought was right. And then once things kind of settled in a little bit, it was, yeah, we can't do this.
the almost like the realization that this is definitely not something that's in the procedure book.
Right. And
Like this is
you'll,
far
we'll,
beyond that.
yeah, and I'm sure we'll definitely see an overhaul in that in this off season. And I'm sure there's people that are going to bitch and say that, this should have been in there, but you don't, you don't plan for this stuff. Like you don't, it shouldn't, I don't know. It almost shouldn't happen,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah. I
But
I I do not disagree. And oh, look at this. We have made it. Do you know how we've made it? I want to tell you how we've made it. We have spam comments for the best adult dating site.
hell yeah.
Yeah, we've made it. Now we're hitting the big time, right? So, real quick, a little levity is not bad. Real quick, we do have a comment. Kimberly Engel, nice to have two different points of view, who watch it at home and the one who watch it live. This is great. Thank you, Kim. Always appreciate your support. And yes, we didn't plan this, but I, um, I do agree. It's really nice to hear it from a different perspective because of
Mhm.
the way the information came out and how things progressed and whatever. Because of course, at home they were still showing us. They showed us when Taylor went to the Bills locker room, and
Mhm.
him and McDermott and I believe Katie Blackburn and
I would imagine so.
I
Yeah.
I heard later that the owner of the Bills was down there too, and then the ref, and they were all talking about it, and it sounded like that was when you knew the NFL was probably going to get it right because they're going to listen. They were passing a phone around, constantly passing a phone around between the coaches, the owners, and the ref, and that's when it sounded like, okay, they're going to get it right. They're going to listen to the people who are actually there, who actually know what's going on, understand the
Mhm.
severity of it, in a much more upfront fashion than say someone up in New York does. And then you saw equipment guys. They would cut to the equipment guys coming out and starting to wheel equipment off the field. And I looked at my buddy. I was like, they ain't announced it yet. It's over. You don't take the equipment off the field if you're planning on coming back out in 15 minutes. So,
Yeah.
um, so let's let's shift from that, because that's pretty raw and it's still tough. I mean, it's
Mhm.
still tough for me to think about it because I did see that they were the ambulance was waiting for it's funny they said Hamlin's mother, but my understanding is his dad was there too, and I kind of thought that was a little odd. It's like, okay, why don't you say his parents? I don't know.
Mhm.
There's just an oddity to me. I'm a dad. I have my reasons, but being a dad is a big deal to me. And when a dad's in the picture, it's like let's give both. Let's
Mhm.
talk about them both like they're important. So Um, I thought that was odd. I was like, but he was hugging his dad and his mom on the sidelines before the game. So I don't know. That was an oddity to me, but I, I had this smallest, very faintest glimmer of hope when I heard that the ambulance was waiting for her. And
Okay.
that made me think that they might have been able to stabilize him enough. Because I'll tell you right now, if they think that seconds or minutes of the essence, it's we'll get you an Uber. We're going right now. We're not waiting for nothing.
Right.
So I was a little just the slightest bit of hope, I guess. And of course there wasn't much hope to hang your hat on after that. It was a lot of, they start telling you that um, that his heart did stop and they called it cardiac arrest and things of that nature. Um, but like you said, fast forwarding to today, and I did not plan this, but I'm thrilled nonetheless. We got great
Mhm.
news today.
Oh, it was such a relief today. And I know we're kind of moving off the subject a little bit, but I do want to
Go ahead.
touch
Let's
on
go back.
Sunday night or Monday night real quick. Um, there was a good amount of Bills fans at the stadium Monday night.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could hear them on TV or not, but I felt like they made their presence known uh, at the stadium pretty well.
Yeah.
But I will say this, when we're standing around there like waiting for just like any information, uh, the Bills fans there were super cool. Um, at least in my section, which is 156 on the aisle between 158. We held a couple different prayer circles, led
Yeah.
by a Bills fan and a Bengals fan, and you know everybody understood the situation. You know, put down we put down our team colors, our team banners for the rest of the night, and we stood together arm in arm, and we obviously prayed for Damar and his family and stuff, and it was just a neat moment for what we just went through, and for everybody to just come together for you know
Yeah.
what we stood. I think we stood there for an hour or 20 minutes, something like that, from the time the play ended to the time we was leaving the stadium. But just really cool moment by classy organization of fans.
Yeah. For people who are Bengals fans and maybe people who are more casual and don't know, the Bengals have a bit of a uh, brotherhood with Buffalo. And for various reasons. One of the more notable ones being, what year was that? Was that 2018 or 2019 when, or was it 17 when
I
we
felt
ended up
17.
we beat the Ravens at the end of the season and ended up sending Buffalo into the playoffs.
Mhm.
And then of course, Bills Mafia, which is kind of the nickname for the Buffalo Bills fan base, they came out huge for Andy Dalton's foundation, blew that puppy up, and and that's not the first time. And I wonder if there is, and maybe you would be able to tell me, being down there, maybe you talked to some. I wonder. I always felt like the kinship may be partially because we're two fan bases who get each other. We've been long suffering. We've been denied at the very precipice of greatness. We've been denied multiple times. Um, we've went through decades of mediocrity to just plain terrible, and now all of a sudden we're good. And I think that's part of it, that we get each other. Like, as much as I don't like the Browns, part of me kind of understands. It's Detroit Lions, same thing. It's like, gosh, you guys, oh man, I feel bad. You guys can't catch a break. And they're pretty good this year. That's good. Um, but I you're right. We shouldn't hop past all of the good that's come from this. And of course, Damar Hamlin's charity is that he started at
They're
what? It's over 7 million now.
7 million. Yeah. Yeah.
He started this, and I think a lot of it has to do with there's nowhere else to put the money. There's nowhere else to donate for him.
Mhm.
But his Chasing M's Foundation, which is in the show notes. I did find it earlier and I linked to it if you feel so inclined. Um, it's definitely a good place to go reach out. Also, what's been gaining some traction is T. Higgins's foundation, which a lot of the Bills Mafia has been trying to support, especially since certain national former players who flap their jaws on national TV have been insinuating that T. Higgins made a dirty play and a cheap shot. And it couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm sorry. If you have eyeballs, you can watch the play if you wish to. I've seen it enough to know that at no point does T. Higgins lower his head and use it as a weapon. It was very clearly his shoulder. He was crunching down,
Mhm.
prepared to take a tackle. But yeah, I know. I see your face right now,
I,
man.
oh
Oh,
man,
I I was
that
I was ready to respond and change the world with my tweets. So oh man. And it's the same guy who always says really dumb things about the Bengals. And I did see the video of back in the day, Chad Johnson trying to talk to some Ravens players, and he comes over and separates them like we don't fraternize with them. We don't talk to the enemy or whatever. It's childish.
yeah.
Um, but those are those little small things that I guess if you wanted to let them detract from the bigger picture, you could. But there's just so much good, and so much um, positive coming together. That's not the best sentence I've ever put together in my life. But
we
there's a lot.
we know what you
There's
meant though.
yeah. There's so much good that's come out of this tragedy, and it is a tragedy. I mean, it's like you said, maybe 1971 we have to go back to before we find anything that comes close to this.
Mhm.
You know. Um. Yeah, I saw a lot of outpouring of support. Um. Bills fans getting on some of the Bengals Facebook groups and just saying, "Hey, I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm a Bills fan, but I just want to get on and say how much we appreciate you guys." And calling out this, calling out that. Um, I saw some people filming people leading prayer in the stands. You saw Dan Orlovsky actually lead prayer on ESPN live.
Mhm.
That blew my mind. I mean, I appreciated it, but that was
Yeah.
like, wow, okay. I almost wonder if he asked permission or forgiveness on that one, but later to his to the people behind the scenes there. But um it's I feel like it's something that's going to be felt at least for the rest of this season.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um
yeah. Definitely.
I imagine maybe there's going to be some people wanting to wear number 3 on the back of their helmet or some kind of a support because that's the other thing you saw is a lot of brotherhood. You know, even former players are not right, after
Mhm.
seeing it because they're like, that could have been me anytime I laced up, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Aaron Rodgers was just on Pat McAfee's show.
yeah.
Was that Tuesday or when? I think it was Wednesday. But he was just like
Yeah. I
that.
think it was Wednesday.
That
I think it
chilled.
was yesterday.
He's just like that chilled me to my core, and I was just like, and at that point, I was like, "There's no way we can play Week 18." Like, I don't think people understand. Like, this is more than just Bengals and Bills player. Like, this is every NFL player that
Yeah.
sat down and watched that game. I if you, Tuesday, I was like, "There's no way we can
Yeah.
play this Week 18."
Well, when
But
I heard later on Monday, late Monday that that the Bills announced that they're leaving and going home except for the players that want to stay in town for DeMar, I was like, yeah.
Mhm.
This thing ain't getting replayed tomorrow or Wednesday. They're not going to go home and then come all the way back. There's no way.
Yeah.
This is done. At best, they reschedule it for after week 18, or at worst, we're going to skip past that. I'm going to take a quick pause and let everybody know who's watching. Please, please drop your comments in. I don't know if you saw earlier, we've already had one comment from a viewer. We will absolutely get to those and address them as long as they are not spam. We've already got 3 of those because we're big time now. That's how you know is when you get lots of spam. We'll definitely get to them. If you've got something you want to say about this, or when we get into the second part, the Ravens discussion, we'll get into that. But do not hesitate to drop your comments in or question. Absolutely, love to hear it. We'll try to do the best we can. We are semi-pro, so um, but so let's quickly hit the high points for anybody who doesn't know on what DeMar's status is. I know you've seen it. I've seen it. We've been on Twitter. Apparently, as of last time I heard was about 3 o'clock today. He is awake. They do not perceive he has any brain damage, which is phenomenal. With what he's went through, the chance for brain damage is fairly high. Lack of oxygen to the brain, things like that, and they feel confident that he has no brain damage. And he asked a question. Did you see what the question was, Tyler?
I did see that. I got kicked out of
Go ahead and hit it, man. I laughed. I'm
it.
sorry, I laughed as soon as I saw it.
I want to make sure I got this right. So his first question was it who won the game or did we win the game?
It was who won the game.
Who won the game?
He's been in a medically induced coma. He wakes up, he has a tube in his mouth because they're still on a ventilator, so he can't talk. So he asked for a pen and pencil, and that's the word. That's the word. Now maybe he asked some other things that it's maybe private to the family, but the word is that we've gotten officially is the first thing he wrote down was who won the game. I believe it's either who won the game or did we win. I think it's who won the game. And I guess the doctors wrote back to him or told him, you did, you won the game of life, which, oh man, that hit me. I mean, that's,
I I was about in tears.
yeah,
Like I said, I read that at work today, and
yeah.
man, that hit hard. But uh,
But it's, I almost, as much as I appreciate and I find very endearing the question he asked, the answer is what's most important because how many times have you heard or seen on Facebook, Twitter, conversations about, you know, there's a way to talk about the mechanics of how things go going forward without
mhm,
you can talk about both. I do believe that.
yeah,
Maybe not right after this whole
yeah,
incident really went
maybe
down
not
and was
like 11
super
o'clock
duper
Monday night.
yeah. Maybe let's just let's
Even
sleep on
even
this and
Tuesday
then
felt too soon.
tomorrow maybe we can start adding this in. Um and I do want to give a big shout out because I'm not a big fan of ESPN. I just find their quality has been their daytime sports, not their actual football presentation. Um, Ryan Clark and Scott Van Pelt were called in to do something that I don't know the last time a sportscasters had to do that, and they
Mhm.
did an amazing job. They talked from the heart, and you know, they really did an impressive job in an almost impossible situation. Um, but I, I've seen a lot of comments about of course, asking the obvious question. Maybe it wasn't very important to ask 11 PM Monday night, like you said.
Mhm.
Um, but I think we can, we can have that conversation and it sounds like the NFL's definitely been having a lot of that conversation because it is a logistical problem, you know. I mean, there's just no way around that part. We can't just act like it didn't happen either. Um,
Mhm.
So, have you heard? Did you hear what the current prevailing rumor is, or do you want me to go with that?
So I actually just pulled up profootballtalk.com, and we got some interesting details that have come out here in the last like 6 minutes.
All right,
Um,
roll
so
it
the
out.
Bengals Bills game is officially canceled. Um,
Yep, I've heard that.
and Sunday we are playing for a division title. Um, so if we lose, we'll still be ahead on win percentage. But if the Ravens would win, the division title will be decided by a coin flip.
Wow.
And I'm trying to see if this
Okay,
is
because that's
it.
because that was
The
that
article
was
says
what I
who would
was.
determine.
I wonder if some of
Um,
this is still not quite finalized just yet.
yeah.
Because
Okay. So
so
it does say the proposal. I'm sorry to cut you off. The proposal goes like this: if Baltimore defeats Cincinnati in Week 18, it will have defeated Cincinnati, a divisional opponent, twice, which is fair. But
yeah,
will not be able to host a playoff game because Cincinnati will have a higher win percentage for a 16-game schedule versus Baltimore's 17. If Baltimore defeats Cincinnati and if those two clubs are scheduled to play a wild card game against one another, the site for that game would be determined by a coin toss. Um,
interesting.
so,
So and you know what? And that almost makes some sense because what I was hearing earlier today was that the NFL has not officially, but sources say, trust me, bro, sources. Um, but people who actually probably really have sources said that the NFL has already decided that they will not resume this game. This game is done.
mhm,
There's too much. I've heard the terms bad juju, bad voodoo, bad whatever, something.
yeah,
They just don't want to. They don't even want to come back to it. And so what that was going to do is it was going to create a problem because two teams have played 16 games and the rest of the AFC field has played 17. And a lot of people were going to the conclusion that, well, if that's the case, then the Bengals have already won because even if they lose to the Ravens, they still have a better win percentage than the Ravens. And I was willing to accept that, but it always felt like, well, that takes the wind out of this game. And it makes me wonder, why even bother starting your starters?
mhm,
The only reason the Bengals would is because if the Bills lose against the Patriots, then the 2 seed is still possible. And then I heard that the talk was um, that the way they were going to do this, because this is kind of benefiting the Chiefs a little bit too much. It's almost gifting them something that the 1 seed, if the Chiefs, assuming they do not lose to the Raiders, they're playing the Raiders,
mhm,
that if they did not lose to the Raiders, then they would have the choice of either the bye or home field advantage throughout the playoffs, but not both. And whichever one they didn't pick would go to the number 2 seed. And that if any combination of Bills, Chiefs, Bengals were to play each other in the I think at
AFC
any
Championship.
point in the playoffs. Well, they said the AFC
Oh, okay, yeah,
Championship, but
yeah.
I also gathered that at any point in the playoffs, it would be moved to a neutral site to eliminate the potential for advantage because the Bills and the Bengals never that game never showed who was the better team.
Mhm,
It's not like we played 70, 80, 90% of a game and then it happened. It was like 6 minutes in
yeah.
or something like that. Something like I don't remember the time clock. Believe me, I wasn't looking at the game clock. Um,
I completely forgot. It was two drives, one by each team.
yeah, it was 2 drives in the beginning of the 3rd, and then it was and then that was it became very different after that. So, um, and I thought that was a little odd. I was like, man, it almost tells the Ravens like, hey, you can only spoil the Bengals seeding by 1, but you
Yeah,
can't do anything to like. And it was like, so that makes some sense that now that they're going to kind of determine that this game still has stakes for both
yeah.
teams. that the division is still on the line, but they're still going to find a way to keep that from hurting the Bengals, but also not benefiting the Ravens too much. And I don't envy. I don't know about you, but I don't envy the people up in headquarters trying to figure this out.
Yeah, there's it's a no-win situation. Um, so I really hope it doesn't come down to a coin toss though. But Brandon Allen has been very successful with coin tosses, so
Well, we have to roll out
advantage
our.
Brandon Allen.
Hopefully we can tell Brandon Allen we do not need your services today. We took care of business. I will say I don't know about you. I felt so good. There was something very very. Did you see the videos that they released um of the Bengals doing some basic walkthroughs yesterday or was that today?
Yeah, yeah.
Today or
No, they
yesterday?
did yesterday. Yesterday was their first
Yeah.
walkthrough.
And it was good to see T. Higgins out there, and he was smiling,
Hmm.
and um, it was really awesome to hear um, Damar's. I have to pause because I keep wanting to say Lamar, and I know that's not right because we talk about a certain quarterback in Baltimore a lot. Um, Damar's family, and specifically his dad, apparently came up very hot against anybody who wants to uh, come again, call out T. Higgins for doing what a football player is supposed to do and making a regular football type of move and effort.
Hmm.
Um, so it was good. I really it warmed my heart to see him out there. Apparently Chase was throwing him a ball or something that he wasn't expecting or something
Yeah.
like that. So, all right, well let's move on here. All right, we are getting into things, and my janky keyboard here is working just well enough to allow us to keep on. You have no idea how much time we spent waiting to get my keyboard to kind of work. That is going to be rectified by the next time I do a live stream. That is for sure. I will not tolerate this much longer. Um, so Damar's awake. He's doing better. Uh, Teams are practicing and getting back, and I wonder how much. I feel like that's probably, in a weird way, a good thing because when we're dealing with grief and tragedy, sometimes the best thing we can do is just get back to a little normalcy,
Hmm.
a little routine. I don't know about you. I don't know how much you've experienced in your life, but sometimes that's a kind of a way to not like to not bathe in it anymore, just to give yourself a
Yeah,
break and just go back to some routine.
yeah.
Um,
It's not good to like. Obviously,
yeah,
it's you want to reflect on it, but I mean, like you said, you don't want to sit around and just tear yourself apart for 24 hours or longer. Sometimes it's good to get your mind on other things and try to
yeah,
distract yourself a little bit. Just escape reality for even just a brief moment.
yeah. And as much as we've talked about it, and we have talked about it quite a bit, I feel like there's probably about 45 things that we've missed that we could talk about. Joe Burrow being a leader,
Mhm.
him and Karras, I guess, apparently tried to get some of the team together to go over to the Bills locker room and things like that. There's all these really heartwarming and cool little things, but um, we probably, I see what time it is, probably need to get on to what is coming, you know, whether anybody likes it or not, is the Week 18 game. Um, and It's against the Ravens because the NFL got really smart. I don't know how many years ago they got really smart and they started saving lots of division games for the end of the year, which was very, very intelligent for them.
Oh yeah, and it's worked out great for him because it's produced some week 17, week 18 magic.
Oh yeah, and it's like down to the wire type stuff, right? Uh, I
Yeah.
remember there used to be week. Well, it was what was it? Week 16, week 17, right? Because so 17
Yeah.
because of the bye week, 16 game season plus the bye week. Um, it used to be that was like teams were packing it in. They're almost
Oh
on
yeah.
vacation mode, and either they're already out of the their season's done, or they're starting to rest. They're resting starters, getting prepped for the postseason, or the playoffs and all that stuff. Um, So we've got based on what you told, based on what you read on Pro Football Talk, sounds like we do have a very meaningful game to play,
Mhm.
despite what they've all been through. Um, we've got a game coming up, and so one of the things I like to do personally, and come on, janky keyboard, work for me just a few more times before I chuck you into the trash. Um, So, normally what I like to talk about is, right now, do we even know if I didn't hear I know Sam Hubbard is still practicing on a limited basis. I'm
Mhm.
imagining if there's a game he's gonna try to go for, it might be this one, especially now that there's stakes. What do you think on that one? Do you have anything for that?
It'll be interesting, um, because he was questionable, or no, they had him listed as limited on the injury report for yesterday, I believe. But regardless, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do because uh, the Ravens they've not been playing very good football here lately. Lamar Jackson is MIA. He wasn't at practice again today, and
Yeah, I don't know.
like because I think he was projected to be back last week or 2 weeks ago, and yeah, I mean, he's not even at practice. And now Tyler Huntley is he's either limited or he was out of practice today. So we might be facing Anthony Brown, come Sunday.
Yeah.
So
Um,
um,
so so let's dig into that
yeah.
just a little bit because I was watching, some chunks of the Pat McAfee show earlier today, and they were talking about like apparently there's rumors out there that I mean, because we all know there was a lot of drama leading into the season because
Mhm.
Lamar wanted big money, big Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson money, guaranteed 5 years, stupid levels of money, and fully guaranteed. And my personal feeling is I think the Ravens actually, what I really want the Ravens to do is I want to give him like 10 years, 70, 80 million per guaranteed because I don't think he can survive that contract with the way he plays.
Mhm.
His style of play is not sustainable long term. Um and but I think the Ravens were really smart saying like, you're starting to I think they realize he's starting to gain some dings and dents. He's not a gigantic guy.
No.
I mean, he's not even Cam Newton, and even Cam Newton wore down at some point. His body
Mhm.
just stopped doing it. Um, so there's been rumors that apparently either Coach Harbaugh and or the front office think Lamar might be on the lazy side. Maybe he's um, exaggerating his injury because this is supposed to be, according to some people, a 3-ish week injury. This is week 5. But I didn't realize this at the time. I heard this today, and that kind of changed my impression of this. So I'm kind of throwing the um, kind of the rumor out there, but he sprained a PCL. For a quarterback like him, that's not nothing. That's a lot. That's a big something.
Right. That's a big
Um,
part of his game.
it's extremely big part of his game. Um, I mean, look, Lamar has a pretty good arm as far as strength, but I've never perceived him to be an extremely accurate quarterback, like
Mhm.
pinpoint accuracy. I mean, he can throw it to a receiver. It's not like he's missing receivers by 45 yards or something. But I've never noticed him to be a particularly precision accurate passer. It's
Yeah.
put it in the general area and let your guy make the correct play on the ball. Um, so that doesn't help him, and I wonder if, you know, if he's got a PCL. I mean, it kind of doesn't surprise me, because what's the severity? I mean, we all know NFL teams lie about their injuries all the time, severity
Right.
or the specific injury. I mean, like, what Sam Hubbard has a calf injury. I've heard calf injury, and then it ends up being, he tore his Achilles tendon, which is technically part of the calf muscle. I mean, it's like, I remember, what was it, the Lewis years? They would say someone, "Oh, they have a lower leg injury." Wow, that's really specific.
What's really going on?
Yeah, yeah, that could be 12 things minimum. Um, so he's not going to play. He's very likely not going to play. Tyler Huntley very likely won't play. Well, that sounds, sorry for them, but that sounds good to me as a Bengals fan.
I mean, I like it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm not. I will not shed any tears going to bed tonight. So we've got that going. We know Sam Hubbard may or may not play, although this might be one of those, especially if they find out that it's going to be the third string quarterback. They might just tell Sam, "Get ready for the playoffs." I don't have a problem with that. Joseph Asai has
Yeah.
been fine at defensive end. I mean, maybe doesn't look
Mhm.
exactly like Hendrickson and Hubbard, but he's not been terrible, has he?
I feel like he makes a little in it. You can't really. There wasn't enough to go off of Monday night, but who did we have the prior week? Would have been
Patriots.
Patriots. I
Yeah.
mean, the last two games, the Patriots and the Bucks game. I mean, he's made his presence known at times, and I feel like he's kind of getting into a groove here a little bit. So, I mean, this could benefit us more than anything. Joseph Asai getting substantial reps here right before the playoffs, and then if he can turn into a consistent pass rusher, you got a nice rotation between
Yeah.
Hendrickson, Hubbard, and Asai.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a year delayed in his development because of the first year was kind of a lost year due to injury.
Mhm.
I felt he was, and I don't feel this because I've sit here and watched the all 22 and really dig deep. I do have a day job and technically a night job too, and then this on top of that, and then I have teenagers, so, and a wife, and she, we have a good relationship, so we want to keep it that way. So I've got a lot of things on my time, but I felt like Osai has been, he's shown flashes
Mhm.
of being that elite pass rusher type, but maybe a little hot and cold, and maybe that's to be expected for someone of his general age and experience level in the NFL. But it's not like he's been a liability or anything, at
Right.
least in my mind.
Or even just a guy out on the field. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
he's getting to the quarterback. He may not have the sacks, but
He's
like you
got the
said,
motor.
at times, yeah, he's got the
Yeah.
intangibles to be a good, at least a good player. I mean, can he get to an elite level? I mean, that remains to be seen. But I think he has all the intangibles to be a game changer for us.
I agree. At minimum, he is a valuable piece to this defense,
Mhm.
which this defense is that weird kind of defense that, even though we know the names, we're Bengals fans, so we all, we know a lot of the names. They don't they're not the sexy national names.
Right.
Maybe Hendrickson is kind of that name. Um, but it's weird how this defense just plays like a cohesive unit that's all on the same page. And I think that's far more valuable. I heard he wasn't talking Colin Cowherd was talking about the Cowboys defense. And he wasn't talking about it compared to the Bengals defense, but he was talking about it, and I thought, well, the great juxtaposition is the Bengals defense. He talked about the Cowboys defense and talking about how their defense is literally just 2 or 3 really amazing players that must be on the field and must be ready to wreck a game, otherwise it won't do anything. Whereas I feel
Right.
like our defense is not that great players don't matter, but that the drop off is not as significant if we lose somebody because of the way they're coached, the way they know how to play with each other. Um,
Hmm.
it's just it's a really very different feeling thing. Because I mean, how many
Yeah.
times we all got scared when Awuzie went down, and then
Yeah. Exactly. It was just next man up.
it really was.
And even when Reader went down, BJ Hill stepped up.
Yeah,
Who else was in there? Tuafila.
uh,
He
Tu
stepped up.
Tufele, Tupo,
Tufele.
um, um, who was the other one?
Cam Sample was in there.
And Zach Carter.
Yeah, Zach Guard too.
I even saw what was it? Not Wyatt Hubert. Oh, seventh round draft pick. He was playing some defensive end. Um,
Uh, Gunter.
yes, thank you, Gunter. I saw
Jeffrey
some
Gunter.
I saw some Gunter action while Reader was out, and they were just just trying to find healthy human bodies to throw in, and
Yep.
everybody did what they needed to do. So, real quick here, we got another comment. Travis, great show. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. We are doing our best, and you have no idea how much of a duck impression we're doing right now. Everything looks cool and calm up top, but underneath about 45 miles an hour. Um, is that about right? It's about right, isn't it?
That's about right.
It was very, very, very interesting before we went live. So, so what do you perceive keys to victory? One or two, just off the cuff, nothing special. But what do you think keys to Bengals winning over the Ravens?
I'm gonna look at I'm gonna look at two players in specific. Uh, the first one's going to be our usual. It's going to be DJ Reader because I think the Ravens, whether they're on their second string or their third string quarterback, they're going to try to get J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards the ball. And if they can't get that run game going, I'll take my chances all day with trying to get Tyler Huntley to beat me. I mean,
Yeah.
he has abilities. He can move. He can create on the run. Uh, but if it comes down to it, I'd rather take my chances with him trying to beat us with his arm rather than J.K. Dobbins beat us with his
Hmm.
feet. So
Hmm.
that's going to be my number one thing on defense. And then offense, again, Monday night, we got a small sample. We got a small sample against the Patriots, but Akeem Adeniji, how's he going to fill in for Lyle Collins at right
You
tackle
broke up
for
for a
us?
second there. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm
Say that
sorry.
one more time.
So looking at right tackle, we've only
Oh,
seen
okay.
like a small sample of him so far, but Akeem Adeniji, how's he
Yeah.
going to fare? And that first drive against the Bills, from the little bits of clips that I've seen, it looked like
Yeah.
he held his own pretty well. So
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah. I
keep
agree.
her clean.
So, for me, I'm gonna go. We'll kind of do the defense offense thing. I like that. Um, I feel like kind of as a complementary, but the opposite thing, which is making sure we keep because I feel like the defensive line will totally be. I mean, they know that they got to shut down the run game, right? But I feel
Yeah.
like as long as the secondary, the second and third levels maintain their coverage and do not break down in coverage, what that allows the defensive line is extra time to get home on sacks.
Hmm.
And sacks, like it's the biggest momentum killer there is. There's nothing worse than a big, long, deep sack. You got him running almost to the wrong end zone in a 35-yard sack or something like that. Which I love it when it happens to others. I hate it when it happens to us. Um, you know, I've been a fan for a long time. I've seen more than my fair share of that. Thankfully, that almost never happens with Burrow. He's very smart. Um, but I feel like when you can cover and maintain your coverages, it just gives Hendrickson, a Hubbard, an Osai, a Reader, a Sample, BJ Hill more
Mhm.
time to break that line down and get home. And it just crushes. It's almost like it crushes the soul of the other team, especially if you can do it on a consistent basis. Now, you can do it to Joe Burrow on a consistent basis, and the Titans found out it doesn't seem to matter. But for 99% of other quarterbacks, it very much seems to matter, and I'm happy about that. Um, what is it? What was there's a little meme I saw last year during is it was Joe Burrow doesn't give a damn about your defense. Doesn't care at all. Uh, uh, so I kind of feel like I want to see that. I want to see make sure that that second and third level they keep the just slam the lid on it. Keep a lid on everything and give them nowhere to go, especially if you've got a Huntley or even worse. What was the name of the third stringer?
uh, I keep wanting to say Anthony Wright, and I know that's from a couple years ago.
That is you're reaching back on that one.
I've been stuck on that all night. I had to pull up the depth chart just to make sure I had it. Anthony Brown.
Anthony Brown. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea who the third stringer on Baltimore is, obviously. If it's not obvious, I really don't know. Um,
Rookie out of Oregon.
yeah. Um, so when you give someone nowhere to go, they either make a mistake by throwing it somewhere they shouldn't, or they hold on to it far too long. And then you either get a sack or a strip sack, which I'm fine with both. Um, so I think the defense, as long as they understand that they have got to go and treat it like it's Patrick Mahomes back there. Treat it like it's um I don't want to say Bill's quarterback right now. Feels a little off to say that, but treat it like it's Kenny Pickett back there. We can go division rival, right? Deshaun Watson
Mhm.
back there, and you just licking your chops. Be ready to roll, and I think they'll do great. Offensively, um, Ravens defensive line is not anything to um, play with. They
Mhm.
may not be what they have been in
Absolutely.
the past, but I think they're still a very very formidable line, especially with when you add the linebackers in. Um, Now I know they don't have a certain defensive coordinator who was there last year. They've got a new one because somebody tried to zero Joe way too much. Um, but I do think that I think that if they keep doing the offense the way they've been, which is Joe goes out there and will absolutely murder you for 8 yards a play every single play. If that's what you want to give him, fine. I mean, that's the Tom Brady path to greatness, isn't it?
Yeah,
Eight
absolutely.
yards a play. Hell with it. If that's what you want, that's what we'll do. But then if you can set up the run, this is where my point is I guess more of the run. And I know if my buddy Dave is listening, he's probably pulling some hair out at the moment. Um, this isn't 1985. You got to run the ball. But I do believe even today you still have to run the ball because they showed it, and I'm trying to remember which game it was. Was it the Bucks game when that beautiful, absolutely beautiful play action fake to Mitchell Wilcox? I believe that was the last touchdown of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
of the Bucks game, wasn't it?
yeah,
That
yeah.
was like that was like the icing on the cake. It wasn't even the nail in the coffin. It was just icing on the cake at that point. It was like, "Yep, you're not coming back into this game. We're not letting you back in. We already spotted you too many points. We're done with that now." Um, that's what happens when you have a legit run game, and
Mhm.
you can and oh my god, I had to replay that play for my wife because she was like, "What is it about this play?" I said, "Just watch, watch the perfection of the fake." I said, "Watch how he moves his body so that nobody can see that Joe Mick or I think it was I can't remember if it was Mixon or P Ryan does not have the ball." and nobody figures it out. And then he just
But
it was gorgeous. It was the
I'm gonna have to
prettiest thing
I'm
I've
gonna have to go
seen in a
back and
while.
watch this again.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was one
The
of those
one I
things
put
where
you.
I went full football geek. I was like, "Oh my god, watch the way he turns his body." And my wife was watching, she was enjoying it, but I'm like, "Thank God she tolerates me." She's a wonderful woman. Mrs. Way of the Dad is amazing. No, it was really was. It is worth watching. If you can find it, I think I found it on just the condensed replay, you know,
Okay.
all all most of basically important plays and scoring plays. I think that's all it was. And it was fantastic. But I feel like that's where if they can legit run the ball on the Ravens, you're going to tire that defense out, and then
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to open up the day. And Chase and maybe even T. Higgins is going to have, uh, uh, and I think that'd be poetic if T. Higgins comes out and plays phenomenal and has a
Hmm.
big
Just
game.
goes off.
Yeah, just goes off and just does that Randy Moss high point thing he likes to do on the ball where they put some, you know, I'm not hating on short people. I'm 5'4", so let's just be honest. I'm not hating on short people, but some 5'9" quarterback and he's like what 6'3", 6'4", and it's just not
6'4".
even it's not even fair.
Former basketball player too, so you know he knows how to go up and
Yeah.
get the ball.
Oh yeah. You know he knows how to apex that thing perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Um so I'm looking forward to that aspect of just get that run game going and do it at will. One, because I think we need that momentum in the playoffs. We need to show that we can do it when we want. We can prove it, lay it down. Anytime we need to run the ball, we can run it. You might stop us a little bit, but we're going to get some good positive yardage. And then the defense has to constantly be aware of that. Um, I I remember earlier this season, I kind of I was a little down on them. Of course, this is when they were struggling, but it was I was kind of irritated with them because they were so predictable. And I think even Chris Sims kind of went off on them somewhere around week 4 or 5 about how their offense just the Bengals offense just didn't have any it looked very plain. It was just line up and be better than the guy across from you. No
Yeah.
misdirection, no changing looks, no motion, I think was the thing Chris Sims was really going off about. And we can talk about that's a whole different conversation. Chris Sims is all right. I don't think he's as I don't know. I've heard him say really smart stuff and I've heard him say not so smart stuff. Um, but I have noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed this, it seems like there's a lot more creativity in the offense as the season has went on. And I wonder if the blandness, if you want to call it that, earlier in the season was because the offensive line was not gelled yet, hadn't played together
Mhm.
yet. Burrow is still they're kind of almost playing vanilla on purpose because of Burrow with the appendectomy, which feels like it was 20 years ago now, but it's just 5.5 months ago, 6 months ago, 4 months ago, something like that. Um, have you seen that too?
I feel like it. I kind of went back and forth between. Um, yeah, obviously, yeah, it does seem like we're getting a little bit more creative because it's we were we was able to figure out the offensive line, get those guys gelling together, and then I thought early on it seemed like we was trying to win the same way that we did last year, which was
Yeah.
F it, Jamar's down there somewhere, and pe- people people have
Yeah.
caught on to it, and we just had to get away from that scheme because it's not manageable to continue to run that. You can't Madden playbook it and just run the same
Yeah.
thing over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've done. So I feel like um what this is where I normally do like a score projection. And this is one of those ones that feels like it could be tight like it was earlier this year. I feel like the Bengals are going to win. I'm sorry. I just do not.
Mhm.
I mean, unless you just love taking long shot bets, just for the heck of it because of the chance of a big payoff, I do not see that. I think even if the Bengals come out and don't have their best game, I still think they're far better. The Ravens have been positively limping the last 4 to 5 weeks to the end of the season. Their win totals, their wins, their points per game are really low. They're barely beating bad teams. Um, and look, you can injuries. Lamar's out. There's reasons, but that's still the reality. And I'm gonna I'm gonna call it 31-14. What do you think? Am I smoking something
That
over here? Or
that's about where I'm at. Um, I, I like you said, I'm all on board. I feel extremely confident about this game. Um, I mean, Baltimore's just like I mean we discussed already. Baltimore's just not playing good football right now. They're on their second and third string quarterback that seems to be struggling to get the ball into the end zone. So
well,
I guess
yeah.
uh, I guess I'm leaning towards. I still think that Baltimore defense is going to come out and do their thing.
Mhm.
Uh, I still think we put up points, though. I put me down for put me down 24-13.
Okay. Yeah.
A
I don't
comfortable
know
24-13.
I don't know how I came up with 31. I'm doing my football math right now. I'm thinking like, well, that's well, how did I
Two
get to
touchdowns and a field
31?
goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Give me two Chase
Four,
or give me
four
two
touchdowns.
T's and a Trenton and a Jamar.
Oh, 20. Yeah, yeah. 7 times 4, 20. Yeah. Okay. So that's where I was like, I know I've done 31 at another time this year, and I just randomly threw it out, and I'm like, wait a minute, how did I get to 31 again? Oh yeah. Okay. Um, I do think you're right though. I think the Baltimore D will probably be fairly stout to begin with, but if the Bengals can continue to just pound at
Grind
them
it.
and grind it out, I
Yep.
think those big play opportunities are coming. And I don't know. I liked what I saw at the beginning of the Bills game. First thing they did was take a deep shot. I
Oh
loved
yeah.
it. And I
I did
love
too. I was
yeah.
I even felt like it was coming. I was like, I was like, this crowd is just like too energetic right now. I was like, they're taking a shot, and I had
Yeah.
my phone ready. I was like, they're taking a shot right here. We might score on the first play, and if it wasn't for that holding, I think
Yeah.
Jamar's hitting the gritty down there in the end zone.
Oh, yeah, I think if it wasn't for the holding, I think he totally had that ball tracked. He was ready to get it
Mhm.
and maybe take it to the house. Um, I totally agree. When I saw that, I was like, and then it didn't go, and I was like, that looked like a lot of hands in there. And then they threw the flag, and I'm like, yep, that's what I thought I saw.
There
Sometimes you kind of knew you saw something, but you didn't know exactly what it was, but you kind of thought it. Um, so let's see here. That about covers things. Um, obviously, we've had some viewers with us. If you want to drop any comments, I encourage you to do so very quickly. Um, we've got Baltimore coming up, obviously, this Sunday, 1 p.m. They did finalize the game time last time I checked at 1 p.m. And then we're going to be into playoffs. 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 I love. I'm sorry. I'm a sucker for that rule.
Everybody does it.
It's timeless. It is timeless.
it
Um, uh, uh, so we'll be talking about playoffs, and of course, because of the Bills game, it's going to be a little different, and we're going to have to kind of pay attention to uh, whatever the particular rules or I guess outcome possibilities of this game, that game, or another game might be to throws a little off the norm, but I feel like at worst the NFL is going to come up with the least bad decision, and I think there's just a bunch of not great decisions, but they're just going to come up with the one that hurts everybody the least. I don't know.
yeah
That's my feeling. Um,
yeah.
so
I,
go
I
ahead.
got Twitter pulled up here, and it's like there's little bits of details going on right now, and man, the last one I saw was pretty interesting. Tom Pelissaro just tweeted probably about 30 minutes ago. The Bengals will be recognized as the AFC North champions, regardless of the outcome of Sunday's game, per league source. A coin flip could end up deciding home field in a playoff rematch with the Ravens, but Cincinnati has the higher win percentage and has won the title. And I thought I saw something in
Okay.
there about the schedule for next year. Oh, Ian Rappaport said Cincy will be the AFC North champion, but won't have the benefits of being the champ with a home playoff game. But will have a harder schedule next year and potentially a later draft pick. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's
lots of
another thing. That would throw off the draft seeding.
mhm.
Oh, wow. I
So
hadn't thought about that.
and then there's this
Yeah.
big long memo with what three different scenarios on here that Tom Pelissaro tweeted out about an hour ago that clubs are going to be considering tomorrow morning in a special league meeting.
Yeah.
So
Some people
interesting.
suggested that they may not fully decide on things until the Chiefs game is over, because
Okay.
some people felt like with the Chiefs, the outcome of that game, if the Chiefs lose, then that changes a whole bunch of things as far as who's getting the advantage, who's getting the disadvantage, things like that.
Mhm.
So some people think that the NFL is kind of basically going to hold their cards a little close to their vest before officially announcing anything until after the Chiefs game. Which, I mean, it sucks that they're waiting that long, but at the same time, I kind of get that, because that could change the way they decide
Yeah,
to go about this.
yeah. I mean, getting as much information to make the best decision possible. It's frustrating. Everybody wants answers, but at the same time, they're trying
It's
to do the right thing.
I think
Um,
history states that that's usually shows that that's usually the smartest thing to do, is get as much good information as humanly possible before you make a decision. That's my sarcasm. That's just one of many services I provide. I did see. I am actually looking at your tweet from earlier today about the AFC Championship game being a neutral site between KC and Cincy, and where is that? That's St. Louis.
yep.
And the Raymond James, is that the Raymond James Dome there? Is that still the name of it? I think that's the name of it.
It's like bank. Oh,
Did they
it's
change its
mall
name?
of something now.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, I was like, are they gonna have to clear out some serious cobwebs? Because I mean, is that thing? I assume it's been used, but
Yeah, that's actually where the St. Louis Battlehawks played. The
mm,
Oh, that's not XFL. It's
AFL,
one of those spring
or I
leagues.
mean, USFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, no. I got that
Um,
backwards. It is XFL, but that's where they play
XFL.
at. The Dome at America's Center is the name of
Oh,
it.
that's well, that one rolls right off the tongue. The
Yeah,
Dome at
they
America
should have
Center.
just. I guess if you got money,
That's a name, all right.
they'll throw anything on there.
Um, okay, so I'll think we'll probably just go ahead and wrap it up. And so, Tyler, one more time, let everybody know where you're at and where they can find you and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Tyler Meinerding. You can find me there. I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube under Ivomania 411, and then I also host a Sunday morning podcast called The Morning Prowl. You can find that on Twitter and YouTube at The Morning Prowl. So a couple different things going on, but uh, plenty of Bengals content if you're looking for more.
And you do, I really do enjoy your on YouTube, the Bengals fan therapy, or the is that, did I say that right?
Counseling.
Yeah, Bengals fan counseling. I do like those. Those are funny to me.
I
And you got
appreciate
like the
that.
different types of fans, that
Yep.
that you play. I didn't know you were so talented. You can play so many different types of people.
Well,
But I do
you
like them. They're
scroll
fun.
through Twitter enough every day. You scroll through Twitter enough every day. You can
Yeah,
kind of develop those personalities.
you come up with a couple types. uh,
Yeah.
all right. Well, so we'll sign off with Hold on. I ran out. There we go. Just a smidge. So, cheers.
Cheers.
And until next time, Hoo day, take care, and have a great day.